Hey, this is Scar from Seo, and you're listening to the Rock God Podcast.
Vaya con Dios, amigo.
What's that mean?
Go with God.
You're listening to the Rock God Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Rock God Podcast, the only podcast that talks to metal and rock musicians and artists about their thoughts and opinions about God. I'm your host, David Locklear, the owner and head writer of heavy-vinyl.com. Today we are interviewing singer, songwriter, and artist Joseph Arthur. Joseph Arthur was discovered by Peter Gabriel in the late 90s and signed to Gabriel's label Real World Records, where he debuted his album Big City Secrets. Since then, he has released 16 albums, numerous EPs, and has started 2 record labels, one of which being the Lonely Astronaut record label, and recently the Moon Age Rebel record label, on which he self-released his most recent album, Comeback World. Let me get right to it. I think I probably fucked this interview up a little bit. What it came down to was I didn't have much time to prepare very many questions before I was able to talk to Joseph. We had been emailing back and forth, and finally when it came time that he had a few minutes that he could actually sit down and talk with us, I was actually in the middle of several different things in a very busy schedule and a very busy day, and I really had no time to do any true preparation for a good interview. So during this interview, I asked some really dumb questions. I actually asked him at one point what his favorite song on the new album was, and I could actually hear my soul die a little bit when I asked that stupid question, because it feels like it was like hearing myself do the very first interview I've ever done in my life, and I had no time for my brain to actually process and maybe do a little bit of self-editing before I let dumb shit like, what's your favorite song on the album, come flying out of my head. But another thing I realized while I was also doing the interview, I realized how many assumptions that I had been bringing to the songs that he had written. I've been a fan of his songs and his lyrics since his release of 2003's Redemption Son. I always felt like that many of the lyrical themes and the way that the music was presented with his lyrics spoke to certain parts of me that really related to how he was going about communicating his struggles, both spiritually and mentally, with just the day-to-day living and the choices that you make as a person living in this world. So I kind of found out, and even directly said it to him at one point during the interview, that I was bringing a lot of baggage to these songs that he had written, and I had completely missed the point on many of the different lyrical points that he was trying to make. And I guess I just, in a weird way, feel like I should apologize to him for not having a better level of preparation than I did when I was actually speaking to him the other day. So, it is what it is. I hate that we didn't have a better interview. I would love to interview him again and maybe come in with a lot better information and a lot less of my own personal bullshit to drag into it, and maybe we can have a more interesting conversation sometime in the future where my own nonsense doesn't leave some sort of taint over the entire proceedings. Anyway, here is the interview with Joseph Arthur. Again, I appreciate him taking the time, and I really, really hope that this sounds better to all of you than it did to me.
Drunk, I miss the fiend. I miss the simplicity of addiction in the scene. I
miss wandering aimlessly in half-dead sewers with rats for eyes, chewing on forgiveness and the will to apologize. I miss the return of no return as I burn in avalanches of white snow and yellow cocaine. I miss talking to brick walls while following the grain, and human dolls as I plagiarize myself like a dummy, stuffed with counterfeit money for Cairo and black honey. I miss illusions begging to be chased, even as they disappear into me erased, till there is no one or nothing but the chase, and a powdery ghost with no face or faith, and the woman of my dreams disappearing without grace. I miss the zoo. I miss the zoo. I miss the zoo. Evolving into a cloud of blue marijuana, blown from the lips of hookers and pimps as they shake each other down in the alleys for the damned but mighty. No one but the weak around and the beautiful unsightly. I miss numb Neanderthals marching in rows of living dead, from my wisdom teeth to Spain and back again in my head. I miss salvation in syringes and angels of mercy and blooms of smoke-numbing rain which drinks when thirsty. I miss glasses full of spirits who without tongues speak to me of Napoleon's wild nights. I miss staying up for days and becoming a psychic pretzel flying kites, chewed on by a Zulu heading with toads to Mars, a mysterious prison and one without bars. It's those kind of bars. I miss the zoo. I miss the zoo. I miss the zoo. I miss waking in the arms of strangers like puppies just born in the pound to a dead mother with eyes sealed shut, looking for a tit to suck and other dangers. When the night before laughter was our only pursuit, even as knives carved up our backs and demons sat like Buddhas eating fruit, meditating on hate forever in our minds. I miss exposing even my bones and the need that rewinds, even my burning home, even my gutted inner child, even my dead grandfather beneath the ground that's wild, even my criminal family, even my weed whacker thoughts, whipping a thin plastic string to cut the ears off others as I sing. I miss Van Gogh's revenge, I miss his nightly binge, I miss spiders surrounding my bed and lifting me as if an effigy, a dead king, a prophet of doom, a Jesus for the apocalypse, wearing dirt like perfume, or a mother for Satan, or a ghost for all the children of abuse. Take me into the fire, watch me burn like a goose, as they sing in spite of voices. There goes creation, there goes the moon, there goes the butterfly wanting a cocoon. I miss being a bloom and a goon, waking up too soon in the afternoon, a doctor of regret, hanging on to guitar strings in tune, and hanging by a belt wrapped around some pipe to nowhere and felt. My lips too wrapped around what appears to be stained glass, as religious figures dressed like rocks for class, burning the gas to the center of my brain, the euphoria of dying and being born all at once, while wearing a hat that needs dunce. I miss the zoo. I miss the zoo. Miss the zoo.
Yeah.
Hey, this is David from the Rock God Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
No worries.
Yeah, so tell me, you're on tour right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
How long have you been on tour?
I guess like 3 weeks or something like that. A couple weeks. Yeah, not that long.
Where are you currently?
Driving out of Boston, heading to Daryl's house in New York.
Oh, are you driving just by yourself, not like on a tour bus or anything?
Yeah, just in a rental car.
Oh, okay. So you just had a new album come out, Comeback World. How's that been doing?
Yeah. Well, it seems like people like it, so I guess in that way it feels like it's doing good.
Yeah. And
you know, in terms of like sales or all that, I don't really know. You know.
So the response has been really pretty solid at the shows and when people are talking to you about it.
Yeah, and just people commenting about it online and stuff. They seem to like it, so that's good.
Oh wow, going to the comments section, that's kind of dangerous. It's usually pretty sticky, toxic territory.
Yeah, I don't really mean that. I haven't been going to the comment sections, but just like people writing me or just people on Instagram, that type of shit.
Right. Now, is the is Moon Age Rebel, is that your own sort of DIY label?
Yeah.
Okay, how long has that been around?
It's just brand new now.
Really?
Yeah, this is the first release.
So has that been a pretty different process from the way you've released music before?
No, I've done it before. I had a label called Lonely Astronaut, so this is like the new Lonely Astronaut, basically. And so I've done it all kinds of ways, you know, with record companies, without them, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the pervading themes that has always been, in my estimation, through most of the albums that you've released, has always been sort of a struggle or a conflict, maybe even with your belief in God. Can you give me sort of an idea of what your spiritual walk has been like and when it began?
I mean, I kind of view all of life as a spiritual walk. So you're basically asking me, like, what's your whole life been like? You know, like, so yeah, that's too broad of a question, you know, in my opinion.
Well, how about in the last 10 years?
I mean, in the last 10, I mean, again, it's like, it's just, life is a spiritual journey, I feel like, and it's like, I mean, every day is like a new, like, what are we dealing with today? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I don't know, that's pretty general. Can you ask me something more specific?
Yeah, okay. Were you raised in a Christian household, a family, as a child? No real church orientation or anything like that. But I turned to God quite early on with praying and whatnot. So I just always had this sort of conscious contact with God, whether it be real or not, I don't know, but it's real to me. So, right. You know, so I don't know. I view life like that. Like, I feel like life has a meaning and a purpose, you know, and so, yeah. Okay. So when you first started praying, was there anything specific that pushed you to start praying? Was there some sort of an event that, changed your life to make you want to go in that direction?
No, I think it was just like, life has always been rather difficult, you know, so I feel like, I don't know, you know, mm-hmm. It's just something probably a coping mechanism to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Well, in one of your songs, I think it was Honey in the Moon, where you said, if you weren't real, I would make you up. I always kind of felt like that was a way of saying that even if God wasn't real, it wouldn't matter because he would still be real to you on some level.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's like, that was about a person, but yeah, like, I think I got that from the fact that people refer to God like that. Like, if it wasn't real, you'd make it up anyway. And I see that. I see that as true too. So I don't feel like I know for a fact the nature of reality or anything like that. I'm just going on faith. It seems to me, all of this seems pointed to some direction and guided. Also, there's evidence that it's not pointed anywhere and not guided. So, it's like, I don't know. Those things are just like mysterious, I think.
When you see evidence of things that it makes it not guided, does that kind of, fill you with any kind of fear, or is it just another...
Yeah, I mean, sure. Sometimes I question whether life is just totally pointless, like, I mean, I'm out here, I'm just a human, you know what I mean? So it's like, of course, that I don't, I believe in it to a degree, though, that I don't mind questioning it in a hard way. Like, I feel like I can live up to those kind of investigations.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the things that always kind of drew me to your music, is a lot of the times I don't generally pay attention to that many lyrics, because I'd say 90% of the time lyrics are just kind of a rehashed idea that's been around for probably thousands of years and just somebody saying it in a different way today. But yours, what I liked about it was it had sort of a progressive, it was sort of unafraid to maybe push the idea that God isn't the way a lot of people believe he is. Like the lyric in Redemption Son, where you were talking about your father, and saying people say he will go to hell, but I don't think they know him very well. I felt like that was a very strong statement to make, probably to a lot of fundamentalist people who believe differently.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's more just a comment. That's more of a commentary on a character within the song, like that he wasn't really well known or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So it doesn't really specifically say anything towards what a fundamentalist might believe. It's more just like, people say he's going to go to hell. I don't think they knew him that well, like. It's more just like, it's not really going into like why somebody would go to hell versus why they wouldn't, or it's not dancing on the fundamentalist dance floor, so to speak. It's more just a tale,
I see, yeah. Now, you've mentioned...
It's not debate, it's not opening the debate up for that, because it's not saying why that character would or wouldn't go to hell. If it was saying, something like, well, he doesn't believe something, so he's going to go to hell, but I don't think he is, that would be saying what you're talking about. But that song doesn't say that at all. It just specifically says, there are those that say he will burn in hell. I don't think they knew him very well. It's like, that's wide open in terms of what that could mean.
So yeah, I basically brought my baggage into that when I was listening to that song.
Yeah, you did, 100%. Yeah.
Now, in a lot of your songs, you mentioned, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but in your songs, I've heard you mention, things like your criminal family and things like that. Do you really have like a sort of a criminal background element in your family?
Well, no, not as such. I mean, like you're reading into the lines in ways that are trying to put like layers of details on it,
Let's see. Okay.
I mean, I don't know which of us aren't criminal to some degree. You know what I mean? It just depends on how you define that and what that means to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you
know what I mean? Like, it's not specific.
Yeah. And you keep it that way so that people can read into it what they need to.
Yeah, well, I just, yeah, I mean, I'm using aspects of my real life, but I don't, like, it's not necessarily autobiographical, all of it,
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad, like you bring up Redemption Son, my real dad didn't hang himself in the county jail. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, right. And my family isn't like a criminal family in terms of like The Sopranos or something like that, you know.
That would be a little tricky, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so, but, you know, have they ever done something illegal? Of course they have. You know what I mean? Like, who hasn't?
Okay.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah, we have a theory running around that my grandfather may or may not have robbed a bank back in the early 1900s.
right.
No one's really 100% sure, but, you know, it makes for an interesting story to tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anyone in my family robbed a bank.
Well, let me get back
But I wouldn't be surprised if they had.
Right. No, well, yeah, I've looked through my family tree a few times before, and you can tell just certain things in there definitely lend themselves to saying that's a bad apple.
Right.
Well, let me get back to the album then. Tell me a little bit about one of the songs that sticks out to me was the song "I'll Be Around."
Uh-huh.
What is that song really about? On the surface, it seems like it's just a pretty straightforward "I'll be there for you," but is there something deeper to that song that is maybe lost on a casual listen?
Well, when I hear that song, I sort of think of like Jesus or something. Like, you know, like no matter what your hardship is, I'll be around. Like, that's like the spirit. You could call it Jesus or you could call it God or whatever you. I don't define it because I don't want to like alienate people that don't believe in that kind of stuff. But that's what I think of it as God sort of saying it to the, you know, back to me. You know what I mean? Or back to whoever's listening. You know, like it's a song about faith. I wouldn't want to define it as specifically about Jesus or this, that, or the other, but it's just a song. To me, it's a song about faith.
Mm-hmm. And maybe just if you're not a believer,
you can find strength in knowing that, you know, something's there for you, like in your hardest times. Basically, it's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Maybe faith in a friendship or faith in family taking care of you.
It could be, but the way this is set up, planet Earth and people and stuff, is a lot of times there's times in life when you have to put your faith where humans will let you down. You know?
Yeah.
You can't necessarily make that's the point of having a spiritual connection, is because you can't always depend on people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even if you could, I think life sets itself up to where there's times when you have to go it alone.
Yeah.
You know, and in those times you need faith.
That
and I feel like that's what that song is sort of referencing.
Walking through a dark night of the soul, so to speak.
Yeah. This whole album came from walking through a dark night of the soul. So, yeah.
Well,
so all the songs have that kind of heaviness to them, but are very optimistic.
Mm-hmm. When you say that you went through a dark night of the soul, what were some of the things that you struggled with while you were making this?
Well, I mean, I've sort of been very public about it in terms of just like, you know, like, yeah, basically like recovering from all kinds of stuff, you know, namely like, I mean, I don't really know how deep I want to go into it right now, you know what I mean? Like, but I definitely went through a dark night of the soul in making this record, and just before, you know, a lot of it's just, I've talked about it, making videos on recovering from MPD abuse and all that stuff, and family of origin stuff, and a lot of that part of my world crumbling down and revealing itself, and coming through isolation over a couple years, you know, basically just like rebuilding my life. And this album is a result of that.
And did you really find the friends that you needed in this time? Like, I know a lot of the times when you go through these dark nights, I've been through it myself, where there are people that you expected to be there, and now they aren't any longer. Did you find yourself in that situation while doing this?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
And see, I think that there are a lot of people who really can benefit from hearing art, or not even hearing art, I should say, hearing music that comes from that perspective, because I think a lot of the times there's so much false positivity out there that I think it even sort of alienates people further when they don't feel like that there's somebody out there who has a sense of that sadness and isolation that so many of us go through.
Yeah, I can see that. I see what you mean. Yeah. That's what I like about this record, is that it's definitely informed of all that stuff, you know? And it's still trying to be positive about things.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's your favorite track on the record?
I don't really have one. 10, so just take 2 off and I'll play the other 8, you know?
Right.
And I don't care which ones, because I like them all.
Yeah. Well, I remember talking to John Cooper of Skillet, and he told me whenever he was trying to make an album, it was coming down to your 30 favorite children and realizing you're going to have to kill 20 of them.
Right. That's the way it goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. You've got a lot of things going on tour. But where can people find Comeback World? Where can they pick it up? You know, your website and whatnot. Do you want to tell us the name of your website, your Instagram, all that good stuff?
Yeah, the Instagram is Joseph_Arthur. Comeback World is available like at all the, you know, streaming sites like Spotify and all that, and iTunes, and vinyl's getting ready to come out, and I guess a lot of the indie record stores will have it as well, but you can, you know, get it online, get it all the usual places.
Mm-hmm.
And is this like an audio podcast, or what's the deal?
Yeah.
Or are you writing it?
Yeah, it's an audio.
Okay.
Generally speaking, we would normally do like written, but it's the podcast is something we've been kind of kicking around for a little while, and finally just kind of getting it off the ground. So we only have 1 episode published, but you know, I've got about 4 more that I'm editing right now, and you're actually the first quote unquote Christian I've had on. The other ones are like
I don't necessarily define myself as Christian. You know, I just I don't know. I don't know how to define myself.
Well, maybe I should say you're the first person that's had a belief in God. I've had several other bands on, and they've all been either atheist or people who used to believe and now they've become, you know, or agnostic. Just so it was kind of nice, because the whole point of this thing is to actually talk to people about, you know, their spiritual ideas and views and whatnot. And I'm a Christian, so I found it kind of funny that I had all these episodes, but not one of them was even remotely religious, and so it was refreshing to have you to come on to actually talk about it in a way that none of the other guests have talked about it yet.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm happy to have helped. I hope I gave you decent answers.
I do. Yeah, you did. I appreciate it. And I'll send you a link when this goes up. It's probably going to be mid to late November when we actually put it together and have it published. When it goes through, I'll shoot you an email or an Instagram message and let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Well, Joseph, it was an honor to finally talk to you. I've been a fan for a while, so I appreciate you taking the time.
You're welcome. Thanks, man. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
When you can't find your way home, I'll be around a while. knocks you down. I'll be around a while. When the night twists up just like a snake, I'll be around a while. And your eyes are closed but your mind's away. I'll be around a while. Come on, baby, why don't you come over? I'll protect you with my heart. And if you want to cry on my shoulder, I'll hold you here in my arms. When it seems like all is lost, I'll be around a while. And you can't get yourself up off the cross. I'll be around a while. And for all of your work, not much to show. I'll be around a while. And you've been everywhere, so now there's nowhere to go. I'll be around a while. Come on, baby, why don't you come over? I'll protect you with my heart. And if you want to cry on my shoulder, I'll hold you here in my arms. When trouble comes and you're afraid, I'll be around a while. When the double cross has you double play, I'll be around a while. I'll be around a
So that's going to do it for another episode of the Rock God Podcast. I want to thank Joseph Arthur for taking a few minutes to talk to us, and go to his Instagram page at Joseph_Arthur. Also, check out his website, josepharthur.com, and check out his new album, Comeback World. Make sure you go to our website, www.heavy-vinyl.com. Check out all of our social media on Facebook, Heavy Vinyl and Cassettes, Instagram at Heavy Vinyl Records, and Twitter at Vinyl Heavy. We're also on SoundCloud, and you can check out any of our podcasts on all of the major platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, any place you can think of a podcast, we should be there. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, and God bless.